who are in these lower class areas, if they follow their tradition, they get benefit. Krishna takes care of them. You know, they don't get much. They are living out there on that island, and they're basically eating whatever it is, you know, how you say, coconuts, you know, how you say, kachus and wild boar, you know, so, but, you know, but the point is, and so that will have a certain, you know, sin and stuff to it, but things will go smoothly for them in their lifestyle because they're following their tradition. But as soon as they go outside of that and give that up, unless they give that up and take up a higher lifestyle, that's okay, recommended by the scriptures. But if they just give that up for no regulation, no respect of authority, no tradition, no regulation, then everything falls apart. Even though they may be more sophisticated, but they're actually less cultured. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So if a person subscribes to humanistic, i.e. atheistic philosophy and arranges a funeral or in that tradition, that person will still be benefited. Because that person will be following.
Benefited meaning that they get the benefit of being regulated and following their tradition. It's not necessarily that the tradition gives any benefit, but they get the benefit from having followed tradition as opposed to having given it up. It means you can't give up something and not replace it with something higher, you know, or at least equivalent. But then the point is then what's the point? If it's equivalent, then why change? You know what I'm saying? So there's a principle that human life means regulation, because you're supposed to be progressive. So if you're regulated, that will move you forward. Right? Now the point is Krishna, but it's very slow, and you just elevate yourself up to the top, and then you come back down. That's called samsara. So even you elevate yourself to liberation, you'll still be back. You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole point, is that then the only devotional service can elevate you in one lifetime and qualify you to go back to Godhead and go out of the cycle of birth and death. But the principle of regulation, that's just a human fundament. So that's why we have, and then there's the recommendation in the scriptures, how to regulate yourself. Otherwise people make up their own idea of regulation. You know, it's just like, let's say the Shastras say that if you're, you know, mainly focused on at least for the, you could say, yeah, specifically the renunciates, like that, they'll only eat, how you say, grains once a day. So that means they could eat just once a day and eat grains, or it means they only eat grains once a day, and the other times it's fruits and vegetables and things like that. So it's, in other words, it's a codicy for other times they're eating, and then that one time they eat. And generally in doing that is they tend to not eat dinner, you know, so they just drink some milk in the evening or things like that. So by following the devotional and all that to please Krishna, that's why you're doing that, right? And so it's regulated, but it's regulation to please Krishna. Now there's this, I say, in the context of that regulation, there's a diet out, I don't remember what it's called, but it basically is, I think it's something intermittent fasting, something like that. So it just means that in 24 hours a day, within 8 hours you can eat whatever you like, but the other 16 hours you shouldn't eat anything. You can drink things, you know, so they may take coffee, tea, you can drink milk, this kind of thing like that. But point is that you don't, but it's the same principle that the Vedas following. Does that make sense? By regulating the life like that, you're following this. But the one is based on the scriptures, and as devotees we're doing it to please Krishna. But if not, you're doing it because it's the mode of goodness and it's recommended in scriptures. But now these karmis are doing it simply because they find that it's good for health. So they found a principle that's given in the Vedas. They don't attribute it to the Vedas, but it does work. But they give their own name and this and that, and then they don't know how to use it. They don't understand as you can do, and as long as outside of that it's not grains or meat like this, that it'll still function. So they only know that isn't not really taking anything. Does that make sense? So like that, then they come up with their own ideas. So how much of it is of value they'll get the benefit for. But will get benefit for if they've decided they're going to do this and they regulate their life like that. They'll get benefit for being regulated. You know what I'm saying? An opportunity comes up to eat in the evening, they don't take it. They'll get a benefit for not be regulating themselves. But from that particular regulation they're following, they'll only get as much benefit as it matches the Vedic version. You know what I'm saying? If it doesn't match as opposed to, then they'll get a reaction. But if they don't follow it, they'll get more of a reaction because they've committed themselves to it. You know. But if they give it up because there's something higher, then that's fine. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes.
So then what about following, which is kind of modern culture, it's a high pressure to be politically correct and follow political correctness all the time, and of course that changes.
Yes, that's the problem.
It
Is that
changes all the time, but when it's
Yeah.
something that's politically correct, you better follow it, otherwise. So
means they're regulating themselves, so in that way they're careful about how they speak and how they think and everything like that. So that aspect, that they're willing to regulate themselves to an ideal, that much they'll get benefit for. For their political correctness, if it's in line with the Vedic version, then nice, and if it's not, then they won't get any benefit. Because the point is it can't oppose the Veda and be, that's the whole point of the Yavanas. That's why the Malechas, they're meat eaters. But the Yavanas means they're opposed to the Vedic version. You know, it's just like the little old lady in the little house down the road here. She's a Malecha, but she's not a Yavana. She's not against the Vedas. She just doesn't even know about it. She doesn't care. Does that make sense? But then you see those who specifically oppose the Vedic version and go against it. That's the Yavana mentality. But you don't have to be a meat eater to do that. You know, so those who oppose the Vedas, oppose the devotional that's the Yavana mentality. So the point is we're trying to purify ourselves of all these kinds of mentalities. So if our background may be that of a Yavana, we're trying to give that up, or a Chandala, we're trying to give that up. It doesn't mean that in our performance of Krishna consciousness there might not be some residue of that left, and so then we take political correctness as more important over what the Shastras say, what Prabhupada's given us, and try to make the stand that no, but that's what's going on in society, we can't preach if we're going against this and all that. And it says, yes, there's a particular small group that agrees with political correctness, but probably if you take most of the planet, they don't care at all. But somehow or another, because we've taken that, we say you can't preach. Okay, maybe I can't preach to a particular kind of academic, but you can't preach to them anyway. So if I speak politically correct, they'll think I'm okay. But if I preach, they don't like it anyway. So you can't deal with them anyway. So what's the point? So that's what we're dealing in here, is that as leadership, you have to know that the measurement for things all has to be Krishna consciousness. That's what Prabhupada is given here, in terms of their association and intimate relation with the Supreme Lord. It's not even it means it's Shastra. And why Shastra? Because that's given by Krishna. So for us, Shastra defines the religious principles, and it defines the philosophy. But we're only accepting it in connection to Krishna. You know, it's just like, let's say, one of the religious principles is being austere. But we're only interested in austerity connected to Krishna. We're not interested in being austere just to be austere. So that's the point with political correctness.